Only 6% of gold jewelry owners in the country own a diamond today. So you have 94% of the market wanting to buy diamonds and gemstones, and they haven't been able to.
2018 became like the pivotal year. Price difference between a natural diamond, it's a mined diamond, and a lab-grown diamond used to be roughly 15%. Right now it's between 50 to 95% depending on the size of the stone.
Coming on the retail side of it, do all of you feel that there are too many startups now trying to do LGD, or so is it becoming a crowded market, or is there enough space for everyone?
Fine jewelry is very difficult versus a lot of other categories.
It cannot run on a basic Shopify store.
Right? Make to order comes with its own challenges.
Every new generation, they bring in new set of values. It's not about transaction, it's more about the experience. The newer generation, the Gen Z, has sort of brought in that change of being more eco-friendly, being more sustainable. Jewelry industry was one which was lagging behind.
The challenge lies in differentiation and brand building.
It is not just about money, it's about strategic partnerships. It's more about that validation when a VC steps in to scale your business, growing D2C brand into a corporate sort of entity.
The market is going to be huge. There'll be a lot of winners that come out.
Welcome to another episode of Startup Table with AJ. AJ being me, Archana Jahagirdar, and I'm the founder of Rukam Capital, and we are sitting, as we often do, in the Rukam Capital office. And today I have some lovely founders who are trying to redefine jewelry, and we want to really get into what is it that they're trying to do. Why does jewelry, as a space, why does it need to be redefined? It's going to be, as always, a very rich conversation. So I'm going to start by asking each one of you to introduce yourselves and a very short brief about your startup.
Hi, I am Surya Jain. I am the founder of Opulent Jewelry. I come from a 5th generation jewelry legacy in Chandigarh. I saw a gap between tradition and today's conscious buyers. So Opulent was born to bridge that cultural shift and to build a fine diamond jewelry brand that is more ethical and emotionally more fluent towards today's customers.
Welcome.
Hello everyone, this is Preeti Shet, the founder of Mayura Diamonds. So after migrating back from Australia in 2018, I really wanted to start a brand who can provide the sustainable and ethical lab-grown diamond jewelry in India for everyone. So we founded Mayura Diamonds in 2020, based in Surat, with the aim to provide seamless jewelry shopping experience with us through our website as well as our experience center in Surat.
Hi everyone, my name is Arushi. I'm the founder of Emery, a lab-grown diamond jewelry brand that I started in 2023. What sets us apart is that we are omni-channel right now with our first store in Gurgaon, and of course we are an online first brand. We believe in transparency towards our customer. We are very customer obsessed in terms of our policies, and we are very design first. So we aim at launching 50 to 100 new designs every month. So that's about Emery.
Welcome.
I am Harshit. I'm the founder of Zinara. I come from Gurgaon. Zinara is an everyday wear lab-grown diamond jewelry brand, primarily for modern Indian women, where all the pieces are capped to 1 lakh rupees. Right. At the same time, we blend the digital and the offline experience for the consumers by offering home trials for the consumers in Delhi NCR as of now. So that's about Zinara.
Hi, I'm Priyanka Gill. I'm the founder of Kolux. I think the fine jewelry industry in India and in the world is going through a massive shift right now, and Kolux was born to make the most of that shift. The customer is changing, her purchasing journey, decision-making journey is changing, and Kolux is there. Our mission is to give everyday joy to everyone. So we're an everyday fine jewelry brand with lab-grown diamonds, gemstones, emeralds, rubies, sapphires, but all grown in the lab.
Great, welcome. So I think both of you mentioned that the consumer has changed. So maybe if any of you or either of you want to sort of comment, how exactly has the jewelry consumer changed? Whoever wants to go.
Right. So what I have seen with my 10 or 15 years of experience in the jewelry business, today's customer is more informed. They know what they want to buy. And it's not about transaction, it's more about the experience. So they're just not looking what to buy, but the way they want to buy it, how they want to buy it. And any brand which can resonate with their value set I feel like the customer gets more attached to that brand.
But is there a age group that you feel has changed, or you feel everybody has shifted?
No, obviously the newer generation, the Gen Z has sort of brought in that change. I mean, with every new generation, they bring in new set of values, and every industry has gone through that shift of being more eco-friendly, being more sustainable. Jewelry industry was one which was lagging behind, and I feel like now with the event of lab-grown diamonds, we have sort of shifted towards that bend, and lab-grown diamonds is being more responsible and bringing that change for the new set of clients.
You want to comment on the changing consumer?
Yeah, of course. Just to add to what was just said, right? In the past, when, say, I would go to a jewelry store, I'd have my father on one side or my mother on the other side. And the decision making would basically be done by them. I'd be given a choice, but the entire decision making, how much to spend, when to spend, jewelry was usually gifted, it was given. It was very rarely self-bought by the woman. So at Kolaks, we focus on the 28 to 38-year-old. And she's changed now, right? Because she is earning, she is independent, she has her personal goals, and her jewelry acquisition moments are not linked only to engagement and weddings, or when the first child was born or the second child was born. So I think because the consumer has changed, I think that's why the whole jewelry buying experience needs to change. It hasn't changed yet, which is why we like to come in. But the second thing is we've seen a huge technological shift happen. And it's very rarely that in the consumer industry you see such a large shift happen where kind of an entire industry has to change. And that's what the lab-grown technology for diamonds and gemstones has done. It has made something that was a controlled kind of rarity moment created by a particular company, and it's made it accessible to everyone. Only 6% of gold jewelry owners in the country own a diamond today. So you have 94% of the market that has been wanting to buy diamonds and gemstones and they haven't been able to. But now it's accessible, it's price friendly, and I'm so glad that we have so many brands on this table and around who are there to make the most of it.
Anyone else wants to comment on the changing consumer?
Yes, I would like to add in that. As I said, I've been living in Australia for more than 12 years. So I've seen how jewelry company are catering to the consumer. They give them options, what they want to buy. So when moving back to India, I feel that gap. So, and when I went to many jewelers to purchase what I wanted to buy, but they do not have options because they only sell what they have available. So, our motto is to give a freedom to choose customer what they want to buy.
How do you do that?
So, we do like a lot of customization. We give the whatever jewelry we have available in our boutique, they can do a customization on top of that also, because jewelry is all about personalization. Whatever I like, maybe somebody is not liking that. If somebody is loving that, I might not like that jewelry. So we always provide them a solution, and that's what I think in 5 year of our journey we explore that people love that. They want to have their own design jewelry. So that was not available in the market before. So consumer are in demand of having a different kind of jewelry in many times in a year, not just a few occasions in a year now. So definitely consumer mind, especially the new generation, are changing while buying jewelry.
I think the significance of jewelry for millennials and Gen Zs has also changed. So earlier when people used to buy jewelry, it was more like an investment. They would buy heavy pieces. A lot of those pieces would lie in lockers. But today's even even millennials, of course it's true with Gen Zs also, they're not looking at jewelry as an investment. They want to wear, and they want to wear new designs more frequently. So they want to spend on experiences more than they want to spend or save in investment. I think that's what is like the primary shift in terms of the consumers that is happening, right? So I think there, lab-grown diamond jewelry as a space is very fit for these kinds of consumers who are now looking for, more of like somewhere between fashion and investment, who want to buy special pieces, but they don't want to invest like 5 to 10 lakhs on one piece, but they want to own like multiple pieces in the same budget. So I think that is the major shift that is happening today.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah. So in terms of how we look at the market right now is that we have seen primarily India being more focused towards bridal jewelry till now, right? More wedding focused jewelry pieces. But the good part is now like people who are getting more into a working age segment, right? There are more people entering a higher discretionary spend segment, right? So now it is also being shifted away from marriage or it's a wedding towards more everyday wear jewelry pieces, right? That people want to wear on a daily basis as opposed to put inside a locker. So that is where the proposition becomes very promising for lab-grown diamonds to come into picture, right? Because what we have realized is people typically don't want to spend beyond 50K when I talk about the aspirers and the affluents, right? And from a legacy standpoint, let's say for incumbents, they typically would get not so aspirational designs in that same price point, right? Typically, you would buy 2.5 grams of gold and 10 to 15 cents of diamonds, right? And that does not fill in their aspirational buckets. But now the good part is with lab-growns coming into picture, they typically buy in roughly the same amount of gold and roughly 45 to 50 cents of diamonds, right? And the good part in this context is this was primarily being owned only by the elites of the India, right? Think of people beyond 25-30 lakh rupees of AHH, right? So now more people are getting to buy these pieces, experience the beauty of diamonds in India's context, and that's where we do see a promising future ahead as well.
So, what are the challenges to set up a jewelry startup? Is it more challenging than, let's say, if you had chosen some other sector, another category, or the challenges are similar? Like, how would you guys define it?
So I like to speak about my sort of journey. I don't know if the other founders here have a similar sort of challenge. One is definitely lab-grown diamonds have this sort of myth around them that they are fake. So there's a bit of learning curve when it comes to educating clients what lab-grown diamond is really, that they are real diamonds and how do they compare with natural diamonds. On a personal front, since we were a digital first, we setting up in Chandigarh, we had a problem with logistics. So there are only just couple of logistic partners who are delivering to a limited set of pin codes. So if we were getting, and India is a huge country with a lot of pin codes, right? So if we were getting certain requests for orders from pin codes which were not serviceable, we were sort of having that sort of challenge. Another being is, like I talked about, my journey of being a legacy, coming from a legacy brand. So we had to break those shackles of tradition. So in a way that brought in credibility, good craftsmanship, but
along with that it had certain barriers as well, and starting was my family, was my family itself. Family jewelry is not doesn't function like a corporate. You have one family member or 2 or 3 family members who take the key decisions. So just like how we are answering customers now, that it's not fake, it's real. I had to answer the same questions when I started up with my father or with my family members. And for them it was like, no, it'll mess up our natural diamond business. Maybe you should not have it, linked with our brand. You should have it separate identity. Does it have any value towards it? Don't go into it. We already have a business set up for you. Why don't you just, grow that business? So these were sort of the barriers, but with time, with the government policies, in fact, our the leadership in our government also promoting lab-grown diamonds, and then the shift which we are seeing now with the newer consumers, more awareness. I think we have been able to overcome. But then again, these challenges, newer challenges, keep on coming every day. So, yeah.
So when we started in 2020, there was hardly few brands in India. So we face many challenges, and we are Gujarat first brand who exclusively deal into lab-grown diamonds. So that time lab-grown diamonds was so new. So telling everyone what it is, spreading awareness is a huge challenge for us. But we did it quite well because at Myra our approach has been always to educate the consumer first. What is this new era of technology-driven lab-grown diamonds? You inform them well, you empower them with the knowledge exactly what is the lab-grown diamonds in fact and things. Then let them decide what they want to choose it. So that was a huge challenge for us in early days. But and being in Surat again. Second challenge, Surat is the hub of diamond. So starting a new things in Surat with the lab-grown diamond was a huge milestone for us. But the one approach we did to the consumer through the awareness, we inform them well, and leave the decision what they want to choose it. And they supported us so well. And that's how Mayura journey started in 2020 with the challenge of wearing the lab grown diamonds. Also, second is we are a omni-channel brand, so we mainly deal into the online. So our till date 75% sales come from online from day one. So explaining consumer from being Surat to Hyderabad to Chandigarh or Delhi, like we are dealing into the fine jewelry brand, we will make the jewelry for you, we will dispatch to you, the logistic challenge and the trust issue were also there, but with the core value trust, transparency and with the help of technology, we have given many customers and all customers brought the new customers. So that's how our brand evolved in the heart of the Surat city, where there is a enormous challenge for the lab grown diamond, because till date
I think
sure.
others can also come in.
Yeah, I think, like you asked, right, like fine jewelry is very difficult versus a lot of other categories. One primary difference is that a lot in fine jewelry is make to order, whereas in a lot of other categories, it's like you own inventory, right? Make to order comes with its own challenges. How do you get a photo shoot done? How do you put out real pictures? So I think that was one of the primary challenges. Logistics is a very, very big challenge in fine jewelry again. Very few logistic partners and they deliver to fewer pin codes. Like Surya said, it's a very big country. So that is another big challenge. And I think third, what we are struggling of course with is like when you go offline, capital becomes a very big challenge because you need to put in a lot of money in inventory, right? So I think, compared to other categories, these are some of the primary challenges that at least we faced and we are facing. So yeah, it's difficult versus other categories.
Yeah, so I'll add to that, right? So the first things first, I think the good or the bad thing about jewelry as a category within fine jewelry space is that it cannot run on a basic Shopify store, right? So take a perspective, it becomes a bit difficult, to set up your initial online store in the first place, because you have your price breakdowns, you have gold price being separate, making charges, even diamond prices are separate, right? So having that tech layer needs to be like very much sorted out. Luckily, we have built it on Shopify entirely right now, so like that's something that has worked well for us. Apart from that, I think like the entry barrier right now has reduced significantly when it comes to manufacturing for the pieces as I speak, right? The main challenge that comes inside the space is how do you manage actually the inventory as well, right? So typically, for example, rings will have 3 different colors, 3 different metal types. It will have 15 to 16 different sizes, right? So roughly think of 100 plus variants for every one SKU, right? So managing that inventory starting up is something that that's the biggest challenge.
So are you using some AI tool for managing your inventory?
As of now, we are managing primarily on Google Sheets and we are like primarily bootstrapped. But the way we look at it is what we started doing was when we started the company, we started taking out ring sizes for different people just around us, right? To understand, okay, what are the sizes that work well. We started putting out some inventory pieces from our money, primarily on the most occurring ring sizes, and as everybody mentioned, right, make to order becomes a big part of the entire category, right? So the biggest challenge is how do you actually give that piece as soon as possible to that consumer when they're looking for that piece, right? Because even if the decision time is very long for the consumer to think of, let's say 30-40K purchase, when they actually reach a decision, then they need the piece immediately. That is when they don't want to wait for another 14 to 21 days, right, for the MTO to happen. So that's like the biggest challenge, like solving for that is something that we're also looking for as of now. How we can suffice the needs for the consumer on an ASAP basis in that case. But yes, that's something that we have been dealing with.
So just to pick up from your point, do you think you guys will ever be on quick commerce, 10-minute delivery of jewelry? Is that
yes. So
need?
Yeah, so what we have realized is like for quick com, we have studied that data quite deeply. Price points beyond, so for example, for on Blinkit, right, the AOVs right now are roughly 600 rupees when it comes to jewelry as a category, right? Bluestone
so that means it's fashion jewelry.
Yes, it's more fashion jewelry. The supply was actually inculcated by Bluestone inside Blinkit. Even there, the sales have not taken up like very significantly on the higher note. Primarily because the designs don't feel aspirational even for a 10 to 15K purchase for a quick com segment, right? The trust level is not the problem, right? We have seen orders flowing in. But yeah, the price points become a big challenge for fine jewelry specifically. We do feel, let's say 2K to 5K is the ideal price point where like diamond jewelry can come into quick com, but like beyond that is something which typically will have a very slow takeoff, right? So that's how we're also like shaping up our catalog so that we can be enabled on quick com in the next couple of months.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I'm an outsider to the jewelry manufacturing world. So my previous startup was in media. But what was really interesting was that the sector, this is actually very well B2B set up. So there are a lot of players who are producing the diamonds, and there are a lot of B2B, jewelry itself is a contract manufacturing industry. So there are loads of factories who are there set up waiting to kind of take your business. So on one hand, the initial setup of the business is not as challenging as you might expect. I think really the challenge lies in differentiation and brand building. I think that's where a lot of the challenges that the table mentioned, of course they all are real, right? But how do you actually put forward a differentiated offering and escape the commodity trap that all of us can fall into? So I think that's the biggest challenge, and the market is so large, each niche is so large. I think if you speak to one particular consumer segment and you speak to them really well, educate them, I think that's basically where you might be able to escape that particular challenge.
Just to add to that quick commerce question you had, interestingly, this Dhanteras, Blinkit launched silver coins and gold coins on their platform. Yes. And I mean, being at the storefront on Dhanteras, I had many clients who had actually purchased from Blinkit, and even in fact, I tried myself to purchase. So that was something interesting that, like gold coin, something like gold coin worked on Dhanteras. And now, especially the jewelry industry is again evolving because of the pricing of the gold increase. We're shifting now towards 9-carat jewelry. So I feel that that's going to bring the price points, like he mentioned, even further down. So again, the price needs to fit in for the quick commerce segment, and if it does, then I don't think so there should be any problem coming up in quick.
So does one of you want to take a stab at explaining exactly how a lab-grown diamond is made? Like, what's the technology? What are the materials used?
Yeah. So it's an old technology. It's at least a couple of decades old. It's not something new that's come up. It's just commercialized very recently. In India especially. So it starts by taking, when it first started, you take a small sliver of a type 2A diamond. A type 2A diamond is the purest form of diamond that exists. And it gets put into kind of, they call it a reactor, think of it as like a large oven, and which kind of produces extremely high heat, extremely high pressure. So that which basically mimics the pressure that the earth kind of
So what
exerts.
is the heat, what degree?
So I mean that I don't know.
It's above 1500.
Yeah, and then it's fed with carbon-rich gases, different ratios of gases at different times of the growing of the seed, and say in 90 days or so, you see this little sliver, which you think of like a glass disc. It kind of begins to expand, and it becomes as thick as basically as they want it to. That's called a diamond rough. So it's like transparent in the center. It's got like carbon corners on the side. And once the rough is formed, as far as the manufacturers are concerned, it basically gets treated like any other diamond rough that's out there. It gets scanned, and then kind of they do rough laser cutting, and then it kind of, they figure out what stone is sitting inside that rough, whether it's one stone, whether it's multiple stones, and then between lasers and human hands, it gets cut and polished. So the way that it's made, it's basically taking what takes the earth millions of years, extremely high heat and pressure and temperature, and that kind of get mimics into this kind of one oven. And it's not as easy as, of course, we make it sound. The level of the surface matters. That impacts the quality of the diamond. How much vibration the surface has, that needs to be controlled. The water, everything that gets basically put into that, the quality of that basically needs to be managed, and it needs to be optimized. So there is a human skill level that's required to basically be growing it. I think I took one of your colleagues to one of the factories, and he saw the entire process. It's really fascinating. And these factories, I mean, at least the ones that I visited, are very clean, green. They have their own power generation kind of on site, that which they feed back into the grid, they take it back. So they are as carbon neutral as is possible. So this idea of, we spoke about values, we spoke about the consumer being conscious. I think instead of displacing hundreds and hundreds of tons of the earth to kind of get out one stone, and then, of course, there's a human cost, there's an ecological cost to it. I think it's a very clean technology. And I think it's only going to get better. So it's really fascinating to see how these diamonds are produced.
So when the prices sort of came down of lab-grown diamonds, so what led to that price drop? Was it many more manufacturing units have been set up? And are we going to see prices continuing to drop of lab-grown diamonds? Yeah, please.
Yeah, so what we have seen is that like 2018 became like the pivotal year, right, for the prices to drop down. And the first thing that we saw was that US FTC came out and said, okay, hey, we don't think we need the word natural anymore in the definition of a diamond. And that is where the supply eased out globally, right? So if you look from 2018 to now 2025, the supply has grown by 15x. Like that is where the prices actually took a deep dive, and that is where adoption actually started, right? So in 2018, the price difference between a natural diamond, it's a mined diamond, and a lab-grown diamond used to be roughly 15%. Right now, it's between 50 to 95%, depending on the size of the stone. So that actually eased out the supply formulation for the reactors. At the same time, given that the supply was more democratized now, the prices for reactors also went down, right? So the capex for, let's say, a 25 reactor stone typically would not go beyond 25 crores as of now, right, for anyone to set up. So that's how the supply eased out, that's where the prices drop down. What we have seen right now is that the primary cost for the stone that is being formed in the end, right, roughly 50 to 60% cost is after the formation happens inside the reactor, right? So what we understand is that like as of now, the wholesale prices are already near to the marginal cost of production. There's not a lot of scope for it to go down any further ahead. In any case, it might increase up once the duties also like come into picture, once the adoption has happened for the country. At the same time, the labor cost will also go up, right, after some point. So that's something we feel is nearly a saturation point, the prices, even in the wholesale segment. But even if you look at, how the prices have like worked globally. So if I talk about the US, for example, when the prices dropped, the primary hit came on the wholesale prices, right? The retail prices remained resilient. The same thing we also expect in India, right? So the retail prices have shown like a higher resilience factor as opposed to wholesale prices even the last like 6 to 8 months when the prices have fallen down. So that's a good indication for retail jewelry landscape for lab growns in India as well, is what we feel.
Sure.
So he's rightly mentioned that the production cost is now at say bottom. Like the prices are when we started it was like way high, but now after 5 years it come down that it can't come down to below that, because in being in Surat I can see, I know personally many factories, many manufacturers now they are shutting down the factories because they cannot afford to sell the diamonds on this wholesale price, even whatever is in the market now, because they need to production cost, after that cutting polish, labor cost, factory cost, everything is so high. And in Surat many manufacturers are shutting the diamond business and moving to the textile or any other things, because this is the point, it can't go below that.
Okay.
That's below. So, and that is for a wholesaler. If we are building a brand, we are providing some value to the consumer, definitely they will give a better price for the retail jewelry. They will not compare with the wholesale price.
Can I just add one quick point? I think what people fail to realize is that for natural diamonds also the prices have come down a lot. It's not just the lab diamonds. I think that's just to do with the fact that how the market is evolving, and with with the incoming of lab grown diamonds and the popularity of lab grown diamonds, even natural diamond prices have fallen. So yeah, like the price is of course one of the things where we are continuously seeing a drop. But still it has stabilized a lot in the last 1 year versus what we saw prior to 1 year for lab diamonds.
So, I mean, just to add to that, let's suppose hypothetically it takes 100 rupees or 1000 rupees to produce a lab grown diamond, right? In the initial years when there were very few lab grown diamond brands who were producing LGDs, they were enjoying a lot of margin. So 1000 rupee lab grown was being wholesaled for 1400, and then the retailer was adding his margin and selling for 1800. So the natural diamond manufacturers who were already in a downside, who were going through losses, they said, hey, this product is giving us good margin, let's shift to LGDs. But they didn't realize that you need at least 100 reactors to break even in 4 to 5 years. They set it up with 20 or 25, and instead of selling it for 1400, they probably sold it for 1200. So they kept on killing their own margins to a point where they could not afford it anymore. So now we are just left with handful of big producers of LGDs, and I feel like now the prices have stabilized, and like any other industry, LGD has gone through its sort of journey and found its margins and price points.
Also, I think consolidation tends to happen in any industry, and that's so. Now, coming on the retail side of it, do all of you feel that there are too many startups now trying to do LGD, or so is it becoming a crowded market, or is there enough space for everyone, whoever wants to start?
So I think about 2 years back when we started, there were definitely a handful of players. And of course, government was promoting, Mr. Modi had gifted Jill Biden, which was when we saw a huge spike in just people asking about lab-grown diamonds. I think the pivot for us happened with the Shark Tank episode when one of the players was like featured in Shark Tank. I think we got a lot of orders from there, and of course, I think just this industry came in the limelight, and there were a lot more players that started up after that episode aired. I think definitely we've seen a lot of competition rise, but at the same time, like if you see the jewelry market in India, it is like a 2.5 lakh crore market, right? So it is huge, and most of it is still unorganized. So from an organized perspective, be it natural diamond, gold jewelry, or just lab-grown diamond, there is like huge potential, right? So even if there are a lot of players right now, the space is a lot more for organized players, for brands as such. So I think of course, a lot of brands have come up in the last 1 year, but at the same time, I feel that there is a huge market which is growing very fast. So today also the jewelry market is growing with lab diamond market is growing at a 15% CAGR, and I think that's where there's a lot of space for everyone.
So I can add to that, right? So like as you mentioned, right, the category is very huge, right? But the base problem that we see within LGD for being like too many startups as a question, right, is that the number of buyers is actually limited, right? So we did an estimate. We found that okay, there are roughly 10 lakh women who would buy diamond jewelry in India as of 2025, for example.
Across all age groups.
Across all age groups, right? Now the problem is when all the LGD players come along, the first adoption happened for people who started breaking off from the incumbents, like let's say Carrot Lane, Tanishq, or a Bluestone, right? Towards lab-grown to find more aspirational designs in their bucket, right? Now, what we feel is that the market is too crowded in that space, where people are like, we're going forward for, let's say, designs, or let's say price points beyond, let's say, 1.5 to 3 lakh rupees as well, because that's where the number of buyers actually go down significantly. Where we feel there's a very big white space right now is actually in the first-time diamond buyers, right? So when you talk about people who are going to graduate from colleges now, for example, right? Who have been working for the first 3 to 4 years, who are going to buy their first diamond. People have not experienced diamonds as of now. Even the families have not typically bought it till now, right? So that is where we feel there's a huge upside. And as she also mentioned, right, the branded segment has grown significantly in the past couple of years, right? So we already had 35% share for branded players now as opposed to unorganized segment, right? So we feel like the primary growth will come in from the new buyers, primarily going to buy diamonds for the first time. And that is where we feel that the retention will also be a good part for it. The life cycle becomes like a key for any jewelry brand to operate in, and that's where typically we feel there's still a big white space. But for in the later age groups, we feel there's a very high competitive layer already in the market.
Later age groups.
Listen, I think it's exciting times. They're brand startup. It's very easy to start a business. Again, as I said, tough to build a brand. When you see these two products, so one of this is lab and one of this is mind, right? So when you see this product on someone's hand, and you can't,
which is which?
I mean, you have a 50% chance
bigger
of
one
getting
is
right or wrong.
The bigger one is mind.
No, the bigger one is lab and the smaller one is mind, right? So you really can't tell the difference. So when you say a woman walks into a party and she's wearing diamonds, so the other people in the party, they don't know which is which. And I think the moment the consumer realizes that aha moment, that happened for me actually, which is why I started. My co-founder was getting engaged and we wanted to find a ring for him, and I took this ring, which is a mind ring, and I said, "Bhaiya, मेरे को 2.33 carat दिखाइए." He actually had ironically the same 2.33 carat in round with him, and he showed me the ring, and I said, "How much is this?" At that time, he said, an obnoxious 2.5 lakhs or whatever. And even then, my heart fell because I know what I had paid for this one. I think the moment consumers have that feeling, right, I think that's when basically the market opens up. So I don't know where the 10 lakh buyer is kind of coming from. Maybe you're proxying existing diamond buyers and coming out from them. The way that we probably would like to look at the market is people who have not bought diamonds ever, and they're accessing diamonds for the first time, and they can do it at a price at which they would have bought gold jewelry. So I think the market is going to be huge. I think a lot of brands will be there, and I think there'll be a lot of winners that come out. So you don't need to worry. Like, think of how many jewelers there are in the country. Like, if you go to any market, at least there'll be 10 small unorganized jewelers there. All of that will basically start consolidating. So as I said, exciting times.
But, traditional jewelers don't need VC money. So the question is also coming from, will VCs take a position in it? Do you feel that there'll be a point where VCs will say, okay, there's limited amount of capital available and maybe 2 or 3 are going to be the winners?
See, traditional jewelers, you're right, don't need VC money, but incumbents don't have that much of an advantage in this category right now, like your family, right? For them to accept the fact that we've been selling diamonds at this price for generations now, and suddenly you're coming and selling it like for a throwaway price in their view, it's very hard to accept. So incumbents, actually, that the machinery takes a long time for them to turn. So by the time the existing legacy players, they get themselves around to it, I think startups will basically get a head start. I think that's why VC money is kind of going into such a big way, because you need that outsider to come in and say, hey, it's okay, I don't have an emotional kind of baggage of selling mined diamonds at a very, very high prices. I'm willing to kind of take a bet and build a large brand on this. So I think when Bluestone started, when Carat started, I think the same questions were also asked, right? So is there a place for technology to come in when there's so many other jewelers around? I think it's a fair question, but I think entrepreneurs are there to make the most of this opportunity.
I can speak from both sides of the coin, coming from a traditional sort of setup. Family jewelry don't require money, and building up a brand is not just about money. There's more to it than money. It's about strategic partnerships. Give you an example of Carat Lane. Even the founder comes from a legacy of jewelry, but he still needed that sort of VC backing to scale his business. So it's more about that validation when a VC steps in to scale your business to a bigger level, and it gives that validation to the entire industry. Okay, it's backed by so and so. And this brings in a lot of credibility, because the family jewelry setup, is run in a different way. You can have 1 or 2 stores at the max within a city, or maybe a satellite town near that city. But to set up from Chandigarh to a Delhi to a Hyderabad to then to a Mumbai, you need someone who's already done that. So it's just not about money. It's about how you are sort of bringing that strategy of growing D2C brand into a corporate sort of entity.
My question was more about that. I mean, the reason so many jewelers existed is that there was no VC money, so there was not extra money going in one direction. What happens with VC money is that if they take positions, then that's it. Then the other VCs will say, okay, now the big boys have entered from an investment perspective, so now we'll stay out of this. So given the number of startups in this space, my question is, do you all feel that there's enough capital for all of you to raise, if you're looking to raise, that is?
I would say yes, because in India is the biggest jewelry market, and there is a huge potential to grow as many as brands are coming. Like as a statistic, hardly 5% of women in India are wearing a diamond jewelry. So still 95% women are there to buy a diamond jewelry. A part of them, maybe 80-90% women haven't bought a single diamond in their life. So there's a huge potential in that. So when we compare to traditional jewelers, they take years to expand their brand in a particular city, but as a startup, a new brand, we want to expand and proceed fast to reach pan-India or globally. So when any VC come and invest or support this such a startup, they can scale it very fastly. And definitely to take money from VC, first I believe you should spend 1,000 days in a business to set up all the challenges. So, jewelry business require a lot of capital, logistic, trust. So many things are there in a fine jewelry industry. So gaining money is always easy, but giving that return is always a very tough job. So that's what we believe, and we did. Like, we have been sitting in Surat for 1,000 days, and we face a lot of challenges.
So I feel yes, there's ample amount of capital that go in. Primarily what we feel is that it's not like a zero-sum game, right? So there'll be multiple players existing in like different horizons of its places. But at the same time, if you talk about it's a category today, right? How jewelry is purchased in India, it's primarily offline. Like that's the first point. The transition to online is slightly happening, like slowly it's happening. If I talk about the online share today, it's less than 5% in India, right? In more saturated market, it's beyond 25-30% as well. So there's a big headroom for growth. The category is set to overtake China as well in the next couple of years, right? So as of now, we rank third in global diamond purchases. We're set to overtake China, hopefully US also at some point of time. But yeah, I think like the headroom is significantly high. The category is already at 8 billion. Like it will evolve to 30-35 billion in the next 5 to 10 years, right? At the same time, you know, there's enough space for multiple players to exist in. The point that you also mentioned, right? The emotional backing for the brand is something that will truly differentiate you in terms of how the design thinking happens and how the distribution for it also happens, right? So for example, store only cannot be the omnichannel might be a shift, right? For example, we have been seeing shifts in terms of abstract designs coming into picture, right? There'll be a whole new market for it, which we have not seen before. With AI coming into picture, that is now possible, which was not possible previously for consumers to engage with different design functions here and there, right? Maybe someone want a tiger in the pendant, then that's possible now in a click, right? That was not possible previously. So yes, we feel like this a lot of unexplored territory even today in the jewelry space. Particularly lab-grown diamonds is the fastest growing category as of now. There's not going to be like a 1 to 2 player outcome in this category for sure, because given that the supply is democratized, the retail will also be a bit more democratized, right? It was like, for example, the sourcing used to be the killer point for mined diamonds player previously. Now that's out of the question, right? How well do you engage with the consumers? How differentiated are you in terms of your emotional backing as well as your design thinking is something that will set you apart. The distribution layer adds on top of it, right? How well are you able to distribute it from different sources, maybe offline, online, maybe, I don't know, like AI could come into picture and like do something for you, right? So yeah, that's how we're thinking it forward. We do feel there's ample amount of room, but again, the raise capital has to be there for sure. For people to go out and experiment on different territories and which have not been explored before, right? The old playbooks will not work for the new consumers coming in the category for sure, right? I don't want to take any spoof, but yeah, I think there are some points which we can discuss like separately.
Yeah.
No, but your point is true, Archana. With a lot of VCs, because I'm in the market right now and I'm raising. I think the idea is to map out how many large VCs are there. They are the ones who will take the bet after there's some traction that the brand shows. But there are a certain set of VCs who are willing to say, hey, let's kind of see this particular entrepreneur set might be able to take the brand up to a level, and then let's see if the big boys come in or not. So I think that rationalization VCs are doing right now. I think most VCs will take a bet on the category. That at least is our hope that they will. And once, because you'll have to take it at your level, because even in the large kind of the 3 large investments are basically coming of any scale. But there are a lot more VCs who have capital who still have not allocated yet.
I think like my personal belief is that, as you raise larger rounds, it's tougher because there are fewer and they take longer time to close their rounds. So if you are not in their consideration set, and they're not excited first by the category and what is getting built, I think it gets very, very hard after a point. Then I think again, maybe there'll be consolidation on the...
I mean, think of it like D2C, right? Of beauty. What beauty was, I think 3-4 years ago. I think we are at that same inflection point where fine jewelry is concerned. So at that point, people kept saying that, hey, Unilever exists and HUL exists, so why do you want to kind of create another shampoo brand out there? But then the consumers were demanding brands because they want a differentiated product. I think we are at that same inflection point as an industry.
No, I'm not debating whether there's need for the brands. All I'm saying is how VCs are thinking and how much capital how much capital will be available, because will it then become a 2-legged race as opposed to many flowers
absolutely, and that's a very, very real concern.
I think that's my main point. Now, this is the point of the table when the tables do turn a little bit, and I'd request all of you, if you have any questions for me, I'll try to, of course, answer it on my behalf, but if there's a broader investor question, and I'll try and answer that. So anybody has any questions, please.
Yeah, like what's your take on this industry? Is Rukam Capital looking to invest in this industry?
Yeah, so we have been looking, so let me start, going a little back into history. So we've been looking at the jewelry category, and I think I've seen almost every jewelry startup that has come in. And when lab-grown first came in, of course, we were excited, and but some of our advisors at that time felt that, oh, will it be commoditized? And the danger of it, something becoming commoditized, is of course very high from a VC standpoint. Not, you take a bank loan, that's a different way they'll view it. But I think the way lab-grown diamond companies, startups are growing, I think it gives us confidence that there's clearly pent-up demand. Because for so many, lab-grown startups to get good traction without spending or burning a lot of money, because not everybody has raised capital, I think that tells us that there's a lot of pent-up demand. But I think my one question that still remains is, will this be just a niche trend, and will that, let's say maybe 5 years or 10 years, people will say, oh, and move on to another trend? That's my question, because gold and natural diamonds, rule the roost for, I would say, centuries. So will this stand the test of time?
Can I answer that?
Of course, please answer.
So I think it is important to realize that lab-grown diamonds sit between both fashion, jewelry, which is say moissanite, zirconia, all of these, and natural diamonds. And both of these extremes are very, very proven markets. So, I like to give this analogy generally, that there is already a Maruti and a Mercedes. Are people not looking for Honda City cars, right? So that's where this market is, right? It's lying between two extremes, which are very proven markets in themselves. And this gap was there for everyone already, right? So, to your question, that is this like a fad? Is it something temporary?
Only one issue that is happening in technology in general, in tech startups, and I think to some extent we are seeing a little bit of that in consumer as well. Technology is just moving too fast. It's just, I think that leapfrogging from one generation to another of technology is unprecedented right now. So I do think it's a fair worry. I'm not saying that it'll disappear, but I'm looking at it from an investor standpoint. I'm not looking at it from a consumer.
Think about it, right? Will the demand for diamonds disappear?
It may. It has already, right?
So
it's dropped.
No, for mine diamonds, yes, but that's been taken up by the labs.
We don't know that, right? Because the question is, and I think some of you would, when I asked this question about who's the consumer, so I think a lot of you said it's a new consumer who could not afford mine diamonds, right? But the consumer who could afford mine diamonds has also walked away, because there is a drop.
Yeah.
For
mine diamonds, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So nobody would have imagined there would have been a drop for mine diamonds, right?
Yeah, De Beers has spent so much money in
whatever.
demands.
Whatever be the reasons for it. But the point I'm trying to make is that I think the permanent state of a market is less so now. 100%. And from an investor standpoint, you don't want to be caught in the wrong end of that cycle. That's basically.
Sure.
So you want, like, if you invest, you hope that till you hold that investment, everything is hunky-dory, and if something later happens,
That's fair.
Yeah. So I think that is still, because do you need to look 20 years into the future or 5 years into the future is a question that I am grappling with.
Sure.
Is this a 5-year thing or is it a 20-year thing?
So in general, the demand for studded jewelry has only gone up. Especially we also see in southern India, which is very much inclined to only buying plain gold jewelry. Even from there, we see, we get a lot of orders, and we are seeing that growth of shifting from just pure gold jewelry to, gold and diamond jewelry.
I'm not debating that, right? Yeah, I'm not saying that there's no demand.
No, but it's a fair question.
I'm not saying
it's a fair point what you made.
Yeah, I'm just saying that will lab grown be the thing? And my question often then to startups in this space is, Are you looking at other jewelry categories? Because will this become too niche at some point? Too early in the game? It could. Like, I think that answer is not clear.
So I can like add a point to it, right? Like historically speaking, like two stones came in which took away as a fad, right? Which is zircon and the moissanite, right? From what we have, like we've spoken to a lot of manufacturers, you know what happened for them to come in and then go away into a fashion jewelry category, right? Primarily what we realize is, as of now, the yield for a rough to a finished stone is roughly 30% for a lab-grown diamond, right? Where the type 2A is the base seed. The problem is like the 50 to 60% cost, as I mentioned, right, is actually the factory and the labor costs as of now in the production value, right? The cost for the seed will only go up in the future, right? That's what we are like anticipating, given that right now it's duty free, but duties will come into picture. All of things will happen, right? What happened with moissanite and zircon was that the entire polishing and finishing also went into a machine where the yields, if let's say even if it's 5 to 6%, it still makes a better business case for them to put the entire process inside a machine, right? The tech still exists, right? But it's more feasible for that as a category. It's not looking feasible for lab-grown diamonds from what we have understood, unless there comes a point where reactors can utilize nuclear energy and be 100% clean, right? As of now, the electricity cost is beyond 30% for the entire production cycle, right? So we still feel there's ample space for, you know, reactors to go into a nuclear part and say, okay, now we'll produce 100% clean diamonds, which we feel is still very far ahead, maybe 50 to 60 years into the picture, because nuclear access will not come into diamond category in the first go, right? So yeah, that's where we feel like the prices are the biggest component for the category to go away or not inside a fad or a non-fad, right? And we feel the resilience that it has shown in the past 6 to 8 months has like significantly given us all a lot of promise as well for this category to exist. Having said that, I feel like yes, the category will evolve. Will also go away from gold. It will not be limited to only gold as a metal option. That is what we feel, right? It will go to other metal options where the margins also increase for the retailers as well as the wholesalers entirely, and that is something that we feel will come as a shift like gradually. But the category will remain, right? The lab-grown diamonds will remain because it's like a more affordable option now for the consumers, right? It's a smarter choice in the end. But yeah, like unless like the electricity costs go significantly down, I don't think
that's one thing. And the hardest part of making of the diamond, it's actually most diamonds you'll see will have a perfect tip. So that tip is cut by humans, and across the world, I mean, people have tried to kind of get that to be done through machines, through robotics, or through laser or whatever. That has not been possible. So I think just adding to the electricity point, that human element is still required, which is basically kind of its skill and its knowledge, know-how, all of that is there. So if that is still there, so it can't go down the zirconia route, basically because of that, because there's still a lot more required to kind of produce a lab diamond versus any other glass that might mimic what a diamond is.
Can we move to another question? Is there any other question?
Yeah, I have one for you. As a VC, what is one red flag that you see in a brand or entrepreneur before, and one green flag you feel like before you invest?
So red flag is definitely if somebody's too glib. I mean, if a founder is not able to see risk, I worry, because all businesses have risk, and the only businesses that survive and thrive is when you are very attuned to risk. So a lot of founders think that when I'm talking to a VC, I have to only talk about how big this market is going to be and how big this company is going to be. And often that's when it ends in a polite thank you, we'll get back to you, and then nobody gets back to you, because if you do not understand risk and if you're not thinking of how to mitigate that risk, it's unlikely to be a large business. Because irrespective of the risk that, let's say, like the question I just posed, maybe that's not the risk, but there could be some other risk, right? And every business has a serious risk, medium risk, and then low risk, right? So the question is, how does a founder think about risk? At least that's extremely important for us at Rukam, because if you're too glib, then that means you're just doing a sales job to get that term sheet, get that money, but it puts our capital at significant risk. So that's the definite red flag. The green flag would be where the founder is able to tell me a consumer or many consumer insights apart from what is the froth in the market. Like there are categories that, like Gen AI is very frothy. everybody will say, oh, it's going to change humanity. Of course it's going to change humanity, but how? What are you going to do? Like, what is your product? Who's going to buy your product, right? What is your use case? It doesn't matter whether the humanity will change. I mean, again, you know, I'm a small VC in India, so like my subset is much smaller, right? So yeah, good, I'm very happy that humanity will change, but it's more important to be able to, when a founder explains what is their ability to sort of build in that market, or what is their ability to grow. So the other thing is, if a founder understands capital, the business side of things, a lot of founders will say, we'll talk about the product. Of course, product is important, but product is not enough to build a business. So where a founder has that balance, I think that's a green flag. Any other questions?
Like for us, we have seen a lot of, let's say, first stage entrepreneurs, first gen entrepreneurs getting into the category now, as opposed to, you know, like more legacy players coming to picture. So how do you differentiate yourself, you know, in terms of, you know, getting more like involved, let's say, with one segment of founders versus another in this space?
The entire startup ecosystem is about first generation entrepreneurs. I mean, when somebody is building something, and I believe that a fresh pair of eyes is always a good thing, because you come at it from a different point of view. When you are into industry, and in that sense you are a legacy professional, you will see problems which you were not able to solve as hard problems. You'll never try to solve them. It's always a fresh pair of eyes, broadly speaking, that solves, you know, existing problems. Having said that, sometimes what happens is that when you're a first time founder in that category, in that sense, you may not know some obvious pitfalls, and you can end up making some very expensive mistakes, you know. So like, I see a lot of apparel startups, and my thing is, who's solving for dead inventory, right? That's the biggest issue in apparel, actually. It's not so much, I mean, everybody can get a certain fashion or a certain trend out. Seasons are being addressed. To some extent, sizes are getting addressed, you know. I mean, the outliers on both end of the extreme, of course, it's not possible in a mass market thing. But if you understand those pitfalls, and you solve that, then you're a very, very valuable company, because even the legacy guys are looking for those solutions, right? So a startup's job actually is to solve existing legacy problems, because the legacy companies are not willing to solve it for whatever reason, you know. And I think, again, just if I could go back to that green flag piece, I think green flag is, and I say this a lot to founders when I meet founders, never take the legacy guys to be stupid, and never take even your other startup competitors to be stupid. I mean, whatever they're doing, good, bad, ugly. So try and learn that why is it that they didn't solve this particular problem? Like, what was the barrier? Of course, when technology changes, it allows you to solve certain things that earlier it couldn't be solved, right? So like lab grown is a very good example of that. So you've got to be willing to do that hard work to see why an existing problem wasn't getting solved. So maybe it can't be solved, maybe there are no margins, maybe it doesn't have velocity, maybe it can be solved, but maybe more as a lifestyle business than as a startup. So those are things I think that are very important. Yeah, but no biases one way or the other. In fact, I think as an investor, if you have biases, I think that's a bad thing, because you will lose out on very good companies then. So biases are not great. Any other question?
I have a question for you. Like, as an investor, which kind of company or startup you would like to invest? Like, maybe it's something trends going on, or something which are going to build a legacy, or something which have a heavy capital businesses. Like, any preferences?
So typically VCs will not fund high capex and, you know, capital intensive companies. And there's a reason for that, because again, you need to have enough downstream capital, and if that capital doesn't exist, and when you are, you know, front loaded in that sense, where you've got high capex to start off, then your ability to grow fast is not going to happen, and VCs want a high growth company typically. So high capex, definitely not. Second, on the trends, in fact, I personally am a bit of a contrarian, so I don't want to invest when there's a lot of froth, because what happens in froth is you will end up making a mistake as an investor. You will back the wrong thing. And you should ask the hard questions, whether people like it or not, to yourselves, and of course when you're looking at those categories, because again, you know, a founder is so immersed in that category or in that business that obviously, and they know they have to do a sales job, so obviously you're going to say good things, right? But it's a VC's job is to be cynical and ask those hard questions to to themselves as well as to the founders that you're talking to. Otherwise, you will end up making a mistake. So our strategy has actually been to be contrarian and not to try and follow the trend. Sometimes we end up following trends, but we don't do it because it's a trend.
Because the question came up from, I met many VCs last month in one of the event, and when we talk about lab grown diamonds, they says, look, it's very trendy, but we do not want to invest in this because, you know, it's a high capex business, and we are not in that category, or our thesis are not on that side. But later on, after meeting their approach, like, we would love to know more about it, because maybe after knowing few more information, we would like to invest in something. So that's what my question
just to be kinder to VCs, I mean, they also have only 24 hours in a day, so they can't possibly look at everything all the time. But of course, good VCs are those who change their mind when they get a new set of facts. But on that, I'll have to end the table. Thank you very much. And I would request all you lovely viewers to subscribe to our channel and encourage our founders who come give their time and their knowledge and their expertise to how they're building their startups. Thank you so much.